You see? I want to make him an offer that he can't refuse. Oh, that was bad. That was terrible. That was terrible. I'm sorry. Not really. Between the years of 2007 and 2009, TNA wrestling had some of the best wrestling, in my opinion, like over WWE and over everything else that was going on at that point. If you don't know what TNA wrestling was, TNA wrestling is kind of the little brother of WWE. Like the little brother that continues to get bullied and pounded, beat up, and hit every time he wants to do something because he's not good enough. He's not better than me. Excuse me. It was actually during this time period that I pretty much fell in love with TNA wrestling. A lot of the things that they were doing was way different from WWE, and it caught my eye, especially with people like Sting, AJ Styles, Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe. Everyone that they had at that point was at a different level that then they were giving me things that just WWE was. One of the storylines that I actually fell in love with was the story of the Main Event Mafia. What happens when you cross the Godfather and a bunch of pissed off veterans that just want to, push all the younger people down. In this faction, you had guys like Scott Steiner, Booker T, Kevin Nash, Sting, Kurt Angle. People that are top tier talent continuing to beat the monkey piss out of everyone on the TNA roster. And it was absolutely lovely. What you got to see was just mafia style hits of main eventers, people that were world heavyweight champions, continuing to try and extend their legacy on a lighter schedule and to continue to make more money because they were just pissed off that a younger generation was trying to push them out of their prime. And some of the stars that even came out brighter out of this entire storyline were people like Petey Williams, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Eric Young, the Motor City Machine Guns, Team 3D, Rhino, some people that you have seen before outside of TNA, and people that were in TNA trying to build themselves as something bigger and better along with the entire company. So what you have here is a bunch of people that have already been established and have already made their names elsewhere, continuing to push and belittle people that were trying to push up past the glass ceiling that had been set for them by these top guys. Also, Booker T and Scott Steiner making 0 sense in their promos, just yelling and yelling and yelling. Some of the best TNA moments that will forever be in my memory came from this entire storyline. So, because I love this so much, what would happen if the Main Event Mafia happened in today's WWE? That is actually what we're here to find out, because this is how Nesta would book the Main Event Mafia in today's WWE. To summarize the Main Event Mafia, I actually want to direct you guys to Top 10 Wrestling. He had a really beautiful summary that really wrapped up everything about the Main Event Mafia storyline. So go watch that and then come right back. No, I'm waiting. That's why I'm waiting for you guys. You guys can go watch that and then come right back here, and then we can get into the booking. Welcome back. All right, great. Let's go. So what I want to do with these bookings, and especially with this one and towards the future maybe, I want to make it as kind of realistic as far as the current landscape of wrestling in WWE, especially right now. So instead of using old talent that really can't do much at this point in 2021, what I really want to do is bring out the light in some of the people that have been in the company for a while and have been around wrestling for a pretty long time. Those are going to be the legends. Those are going to be the people in the Main Event Mafia. Then they're also going to go against some of the up-and-coming talent that we really want to fix in the current WWE landscape. I'm currently recording this around Royal Rumble time. This is the best time. This is my personal favorite pay-per-view of all time. This is around the time where people start to make their returns. So we're going to save some returns for the Rumble and after the Rumble. But at this point, we need this group, Retribution, gone. Injure them. I don't care how it happens. We need them to be off TV for at least 3 months. Now, I did say I wanted all of Retribution off TV. I will make one small adjustment. I want to make Mustafa Ali. We're going to have him come back at the Rumble. In the Royal Rumble, we're going to have Mustafa come back at about number 19. Then we're going to have Samoa Joe return from the commentary desk at about number 24. Once we get a little bit closer to number 30, probably about, let's say, 27, we're going to hear this. Kurt Angle return. As you see, Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe were a part of the original Main Event Mafia back in TNA. Now, at this point, we're going to have Mustafa eliminate Kurt Angle from the Rumble. Samoa Joe is going to be a little bit peeved and throw Mustafa out of the ring right after. We're going to need this little patch of storytelling for later. On the Raw after WrestleMania, Kurt Angle is going to make another appearance, but he's actually going to go down to the commentary desk and just commentate on a couple matches. We're going to have Kurt commentate on Miz and Morrison's match. Oh, and we're also going to have Mickie James in a match that Kurt Angle will be watching. In the Main Event Mafia in TNA, they had Charmel and I forget her name, but they were kind of valets. But since the WWE Women's Division is strong, we want to have a strong legend in the Main Event Mafia. That's going to be Mickie James. Miz and Morrison are going to face the Lucha House Party, Grand Metalik, and Lince Dorado. During the match, it goes for about 5 minutes. Miz and Morrison are looking strong, but Lince Dorado is actually going to roll up Miz for a 1, 2, 3. Kind of embarrassing. Miz and Morrison are going to throw a fit. Lucha House Party going to lucha their way on out to the back. Kurt Angle gets up from the commentary table and shakes his head. Later on the night, we're going to have Mickie James return in a match against Nikki Cross. Mickie is going to be strong. It's going to be a pretty good even match, but Nikki wins pretty decisively. After the match, Mickie sees Kurt in the back and Kurt calls her towards him. Both of them leave the arena in Kurt's car, and it seems that they have something to talk about. The next week on Raw, we're going to have Miz and Morrison in a match against Mustafa Ali and Shane Thorne. Now, Kurt Angle's going to be in the corner of Miz and Morrison for this match. But we also want to have this match be pretty even, with Miz and Morrison being some strong heels and some strong veterans. But we also want to have Shane Thorne and Ali as some strong newbies and some strong faces. Ali and Thorne win the match and raise their hands to shake Miz and Morrison's hand as well. But Miz and Morrison look back at Kurt. Kurt shakes his head and they all walk off to the back. Shane. Now, for a couple of months, we're going to have Ali and Thorne win a bunch of matches, both in singles and tag competition. We're also going to have Miz and Morrison win on and off. They're going to be on some sort of a losing streak for a little bit, with one win, then another losing streak, because they're not listening to Kurt. On the women's side, Kurt escorts Mickie James to all of her matches. Mickie James builds some sort of a winning streak and looks pretty dominant once again. So we're going to get to Backlash, and this is how the card's going to look. Now we're in June, so we want to have Ali and Shane Thorne as some viable contenders to the tag team championships. At this point, Money in the Bank is reeling around the corner, so Miz, still holding the Money in the Bank briefcase, he definitely needs to cash in. Also, we're going to have Joe on somewhat of a winning streak, so he can face Drew for the championship at Money in the Bank. Right before Money in the Bank, we're going to have Joe call out Drew McIntyre. He doesn't want to wait until Money in the Bank. He wants the match now. Drew, being a fighting champion, obliges, and they have a match set for the main event of Raw, Joe versus Drew for the WWE Championship. Early in the night, Ali beats Morrison in a singles match with some shenanigans with Shane Thorne costing Morrison the match. Now at this point, Kurt is visibly pissed because he continues to watch his people get losses week after week after week. During all of this, Mickie James is still on a winning streak and she's going for the Raw Women's Championship. At this point, Asuka's probably still the champion, so Mickie James versus Asuka at Money in the Bank is set. In the main event, we're going to have Drew decisively beat Samoa Joe in that match. And Samoa Joe, visibly pissed, absolutely disgusted that he lost a match so high. He lost this match on his high winning streak. So he decides to whoop Drew's ass. I'm talking throw him out of the ring, punch him, elbows, knees, anything he can to make Drew look pretty beat up. Right after that, Joe throws Drew in the ring and The Miz comes out and cashes Money in the Bank successfully, leaving the end of Raw with Samoa Joe standing right next to The Miz, John Morrison, and Kurt Angle, with Miz holding up the WWE Championship. At Money in the Bank, this is how the card's going to look. And we're going to have Joe win the Money in the Bank Championship with the help of The Big Show. Also, we're going to have Mickie James win the Raw Women's Championship with the help of Kurt Angle. So at this point, we have all of our veterans who have their championships. For the following weeks after Money in the Bank, for about 2 months, we're going to have random attacks on younger talent. Commentary calls them Mafia type hits on each of these people. After every beatdown, there's a calling card that says MEM on it. Now, we're in August, getting ready for SummerSlam. And to open the show on the first night of Raw, we're gonna get a shot of this beautiful lounge. The lounge is set up for an interview. We see a random backstage interviewer, along with Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe, Big Show, Miz and John Morrison, and Mickie James. All of them are sitting together with their championships and the briefcase all on this beautiful long table, looking suited and booted, and they start to talk about how they continue to be disrespected by younger talent. Miz and Morrison bring up their grievances about all the things that they've had to deal with in the past, like being looked at as just comedy goofs, being used as stepping stones to the main event scene, and all they want is respect. Samoa Joe also says that he just wants respect as well. He continues to be shuffled down for each of these younger people, and they are ending up taking his spot in the main event scene. The Big Show, who has nothing left to prove, he just wants respect for all the veterans in the locker room. He grew up knowing that he was the youngest, but he would learn from everyone. Mickie James also feels the same way, that she has been pushed to the side because she's a mom and because she's a former world champion, but continues to just be used to elevate newer talent that continue to take her spot. Interviewer asks Kurt, why did you bring all of these people together? And Kurt replies, all of them have said something that I've had to deal with before. They want respect. Kurt kind of mimics a promo that he did in TNA, where he says, there are 3 main things that the wrestling industry is built upon: honor, dignity, and respect. Kurt says that because he cannot continue to be in the ring, he wants to be the godfather of wrestling. So, he created his own Mafia, a new Main Event Mafia. All main eventers, all world champions, whether in or outside of WWE. He wants all of them to get respect, and if they have to, they're gonna beat it out of all the younger talent. The segment closes with Kurt looking deep into the camera and saying, we will do anything we have to get respect. Every match that a Main Event Mafia wins, nobody from the Mafia comes to interfere. But every match that the Main Event Mafia loses, that's when bad things start happening. In the weeks leading up to SummerSlam, Mustafa Ali, injured. Lucha House Party, injured. Nikki Cross, injured as well. Once we get to SummerSlam, this is what the card looks like. By the end of SummerSlam, everyone in the Main Event Mafia is a champion, kind of like this picture. And I love this picture, especially because of Booker. Through the months of September and October, the Main Event Mafia is destroying the entire roster. In the weeks leading up to Survivor Series, Raw management has no idea what to do because they can't control the Mafia. So they enlist the services of the Hurt Business, along with Naomi. Each week we see a showcase of the Main Event Mafia versus the Hurt Business. One week we have Naomi versus Mickie James. Naomi wins that one. The week after that we have Big Show and Samoa Joe against MVP and Shelton Benjamin. Big Show and Samoa Joe win that match. The week after that we have Cedric versus John Morrison. I like this match. This is going to be a good match in the future. We're going to have Cedric go ahead and have the win for that one. And then the week before Survivor Series, we're going to have Bobby Lashley versus The Miz. And Miz is scared. In the final Raw before Survivor Series, we're going to have Miz versus Lashley in a non-title match. Samoa Joe is going to cost Miz the match by knocking out Bobby Lashley. Since Miz still has the title, he doesn't care. So he will call the rest of the Main Event Mafia, and they will continue to beat Bobby Lashley. When the Hurt Business comes in, they have a big fight, and that closes the show of Raw. At Survivor Series, we want to build the entire show around this big match between the Hurt Business and the Main Event Mafia. Also, for the Women's Championship, Naomi is going to beat Mickie James. After the match, Mickie James goes off. She yells at Kurt and tells Kurt to find her a tag partner because she needs titles now. We're building to TLC now. Kurt obliges and finds Melina for Mickie James. Now, although those two don't really have history, they're legends and they want gold. So they go after the women's tag team titles. On the men's side, because the Hurt Business won the Survivor Series match, they want the titles from the Mafia. All this builds to TLC, where we have this card. And in the main event with Miz versus Bobby Lashley, we want to tease that Miz might lose the championship, but Samoa Joe is there to cash in as well. So Samoa Joe teases that he's going to cash in and win the match, but he instead helps Miz retain the championship and helps him climb up the ladder. After the show, in some backstage whatever, we want to have Kurt Angle specifically anoint Miz as the Don of the group. On the New Year's episode of Raw, we're going to have Miz and Samoa Joe versus Bobby Lashley and MVP. Lashley's still going for the WWE title, so Miz tells Joe to go ahead and whoop Lashley's ass. Miz tells Samoa Joe to beat Bobby Lashley up. He does so MVP's going into the match alone. Miz and MVP have the match, but Miz doesn't tag in Samoa Joe when he needs to. We're slowly building Samoa Joe to be really angry that he is not doing anything but just making hits at the orders of Miz. The match ends with Miz getting the win over MVP. Samoa Joe kind of looks irritated. Also on the show, we're going to have Melina and Mickie James win the tag team titles. Next week on Raw, Mickie James tells Melina, yeah, this is cool, but I still want the women's championship. Melina, on the other hand, also says, yeah, I want the women's championship too. Later that night on Raw, they have a tag team match against women's champion Naomi and Mia Yim. Through the rest of Raw, we have two number one contenders match, one for the Raw tag team titles and one for the United States titles. For the Raw tag team titles, we're going to have Dio Madden and Dominik Dijakovic win that match. They're the number one contenders for the tag titles. And we're also going to have Shane Thorne become the #1 contender for the United States title. In the main event of Raw, we're going to have Bobby Lashley in a one-on-one match against Samoa Joe. And the winner of that match picks the stipulation for the WWE title match between Bobby Lashley and The Miz. We're going to have Samoa Joe win this match. And we're also going to have Miz specifically tell Joe to pick an Extreme Rules match. But Samoa Joe picks a steel cage match instead. At this point, we want to establish that Samoa Joe is extremely tired of doing the Miz's bidding because he's gotten a little bit power hungry since he was named the Don. Miz complains to Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle says, "Hey, this isn't between me. You're the champion and you're the Don. You have the Mafia behind you." At the Royal Rumble, this is the card. We're going to have Mustafa Ali win the Royal Rumble. And we're going to have Samoa Joe cash in on The Miz after narrowly escaping Bobby Lashley. On Raw, Samoa Joe becomes the new Don. And Miz is definitely upset because that was his title. And that was his position in the Mafia. And Kurt Angle says, "If you don't fall in line, Miz, Joe's going to kill you." On Raw, we have Samoa Joe ordering hits on Mustafa Ali, Shane Thorne, Dio Madden, and Dijakovic throughout the night, right after their matches. Also, we have some infighting between Mickie James and Melina as they're getting ready to face Mia Yim in a triple threat match that night. During the match, Mia Yim plays to the infighting between the two and pins Mickie James because Melina moved out of the way. Next week on Raw, Mickie and Melina, they're still fighting, but Kurt tells them that they have a tag team match for the championships against the newly formed team of Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. During that match, Melina is the reason that Mickie James gets pinned and they both lose the tag team championships. Melina is extremely apologetic and begs Mickie James for forgiveness. But Mickie goes off. He starts hitting Melina, rolls out of the ring, gets a kendo stick, hitting Melina. The entire Mafia comes out and breaks them up. Miz takes a cheap shot at Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe barely reacts and then stares a hole into Miz. And Kurt Angle says he's sick of it. "I'm tired of all this infighting." Next week is going to be Samoa Joe versus The Miz and Melina versus Mickie James. Samoa Joe versus The Miz, that's for the title of Don. On that episode of Raw, Miz is going to lose to Samoa Joe despite help from John Morrison. But John Morrison eventually falls in line and tells Miz to join him in falling in line under Samoa Joe. Later on that night, we see Morrison and Big Show get beat up by Shane Thorne and Dio Madden. For the main event, Mickie James tells Kurt that she might need a little bit of help. Kurt tells Mickie James that this match is also an Elimination Chamber qualifier for the Raw Women's title. The match is a really good match, but of course, Mickie James wins with a distraction from Kurt Angle. Mickie banishes and exiles Melina, but also calls her shot that she will win the Raw Women's Championship at Elimination Chamber. We get to Elimination Chamber. We have one chamber match that has Mickie James and Mia Yim at the final two, and Mia Yim wins by pinning Mickie James. In the chamber match for the WWE Championship, we have these men. The winner of that match is Samoa Joe, but he pins Mustafa Ali with help from The Miz. On the build to Mania, we want to have a reunion of Retribution. All 5 members start doing their own hits on the members of the Main Event Mafia. We'll have that happen for about 3 weeks. On the week after, we have all 5 members of the former group Retribution talking about how they continue to get pushed down, but now they're pushing back up against the veterans of the sport. They never respected people that paved the way for them. Samoa Joe, being the Don, he calls a challenge to Retribution at WrestleMania. But Ali calls a challenge to Samoa Joe because he won the Royal Rumble and he has a guaranteed match against the WWE champion. Mia Yim, on the other hand, calls out Mickie James and says, "You want this title so bad? I challenge you at WrestleMania as well. So the matches are set. We have Mia Yim versus Mickie James for the Raw Women's Championship. We have The Miz, John Morrison, and The Big Show against Shane Thorne, Dio Madden, and Dominic Dijakovic. Retribution versus the Main Event Mafia. And lastly, we have Samoa Joe versus Mustafa Ali for the WWE Championship. 2 weeks before WrestleMania, Kurt Angle wants his Mafia to remember who they are, to remember that they are the top draws, that they are the main event. So he orders a hit on Retribution, which is completed successfully. The week after, Retribution retaliates and they have a hit on the Main Event Mafia, which sets up WrestleMania for us. At WrestleMania, we have Mickie James lose to Mia Yim decisively with no shenanigans. In the 6-man tag team match, we have Retribution win and shake hands with the Main Event Mafia. In the last match of the night, we have Mustafa Ali beat Samoa Joe for the WWE Championship. After that match, Kurt Angle comes out and shakes hands with Mustafa Ali. Samoa Joe angrily walks to the back, upset that he lost his championship, but gives a little bit of a nod to all. And we end WrestleMania with a clean sweep for Retribution. On the Raw after WrestleMania, Kurt Angle officially disbands the Main Event Mafia, admitting that he was wrong about the up-and-coming talent, especially Mustafa Ali. And that is how I would book the Main Event Mafia in WWE. Was there anything that I missed, anything that you didn't like? Please let me know in the comments down below. If you guys want me to book anything else differently or take a different storyline from any other company and put it in either WWE, AEW, or TNA, let me know in the comments as well. I'm Nessy Ness. I love you all. Stay safe and stay frosty. Deuces.